the perps, those who create and continue to engage in coercive persuasion programming. And gotta give a big round of applause to my fellow TI and the TI community for having the courage to persevere. Those of us who are speaking out and speaking the truth of what is happening, what has been going on, and what is continue to happen. Okay. The one thing we know is that they will go spend, they will go through and spend any effort and would not spend any effort to try to silence us from speaking the truth. And this is why we have to stay diligent. We have to stay focused. Now, I know that's easier said than done. Okay. But there are times, particularly in my situation, where they will attack me, which gives me a renewed spirit. I shouldn't say renewed spirit, but a renewed sense of effort to, expose them even more. So the more they manipulate things behind the scenes, the more they engage in manipulation, not just with us as TIs, but the people around us, including family members, significant others, friends, what have you. We are going to continue to expose them in ways in which they have never been exposed before, particularly when it comes to engaging in mind control, brainwashing, mind control technology being used on target individuals as well as family members and members of the general public. Okay. So I am going to talk about particularly in how they have been attacking me so lately, and they have been trying to find and use multiple ways to engage and silence me. All right. So I want you to pay close attention. All right. Because when you're a targeted individual, it doesn't matter if you speak up or not. You're going to continue to be targeted. They will continue to use mind control technology like silent sound spread spectrum, otherwise known as S squad, and other forms of microwave and radio wave frequency to attack you. All right. And so I wanted to do this video. I'm up late. It's 2:07 a.m. And because again, they've been attacking me so much, I'll start to suffer from insomnia. And again, family members don't understand what's going on. They don't want to believe you, and particularly if you're black and within the black community, we have the highest rate of mental illness, and particularly black women have the highest rate within our community of mental illness, right? So you got to ask yourself, how is it that black people in particular in the United States, right, within the past few decades, the amount of diagnosis of mental illness within our group is so rampant? And the fact that we tend to believe white psychiatrists, white sociologists, in terms of how they are labeling us. Now, we've known how in the past, how they've used psychiatry as a tool to discredit, as a tool to silence, particularly black political figures, black freedom fighters, black activists, right? And yet we don't even look at each other with any sort of empathy, any sort of sympathetic mindset, as we see other communities treat those within their communities who have been labeled with a mental illness. But we are quick to discredit, we are quick to degrade, and we are quick to turn against and conspire, okay, to conspire against our own people who have been diagnosed with mental illness or so-called mental illness. So I'm going to talk about whistleblower because it's targeted individuals. They have been trying to silence us for the longest. Okay. And because of their mentality, right? I mean, the psychopaths, the dark triad personality types who have engaged in all sort of scientific experiment using human beings, particularly in the realm of mind control, they have always sought to silence those who they have committed crimes against. Okay. And so, and it's not just TIs, it is those working within the government to expose corruption. It includes those that work in other public sectors, such as the police departments, even those who work in financial industry who disclose corruption have been retaliated against and had their lives destroyed, had their family destroyed, their lives destroyed. They can no longer work, find jobs, and suffer gravely and are put into poverty. Okay? So the more they attack me, is the more, like I said, the ancestors within me light that fire to where I don't really gotta do much. I just follow what they tell me to do. Okay? And when I say tell me to do, I follow what they tell me through my mind, and not the perps, not these psychopaths, but the ancestors within me, my bloodline, my DNA. And this is one of the things that they sought to destroy. Okay? And when you look at particularly civil rights activists in the past, you look at their children and how their children had been neutered, psychologically neutered, from engaging in any sort of serious political activism, in any sort of serious leadership, okay, out of the fear-based trauma conditioning that has been programmed into their mind, okay? And like I said, it's no coincidence when Malcolm X's grandson decided he was going to follow in his grandfather's footsteps that he got invited to Mexico where he was killed. Okay. And recently this year, I was invited to speak next year at some convention, which I declined, not out of because I didn't want to, because I would have to go by myself and I would be open to all sorts of attacks with no one to turn to. Okay, so unless I was going with someone that I know, then I would go. Other than that, no. Okay, we have to be very careful as TIs in terms of who we follow, because again, sometimes we know that this technology can be used to control people's mind. Okay, we know that. All right, so we got to be very, very careful. All right. So anyway, let me read this article. This is from the ACLU, and let me show you guys the article. All right, this is from the ACLU. Government engaging in pattern of cover-up, whistleblowers silence at the expense of our safety. Now we know that there's rampant corruption within our government. We know that the people who are controlling or in control, whether they be within the government or within the shadow government, they have a purpose. And their purpose is to maintain their control over the rest of us. And anyone who expose their corruption, they will have their lives turned upside down. We've seen this with Edward Snowden. We've seen this with Richard Bennett. We've seen that with Chelsea Manning. We've seen that with others. I forgot the black CIA intelligence officer's name, but he was sentenced to, I believe, 10 years in prison for blowing the whistle on government corruption. And he went through the proper channel. Okay, he went through the proper channel. He did everything that they had asked him to do as a whistleblower, and they did nothing. Okay, so the government is routinely retaliating against government employees who uncover weakness in our ability to prevent terrorist attack or protect the public safety. Since September 9/11, 50% more government workers annually are seeking protection against retaliation for blowing the whistle on allegation of substantial and specific dangers to public health and safety and national security concerns. You know, see, it's always interested me when they try to use that national safety thing with us as TI, or public safety thing as TI, when they are the ones that are that are a danger to the public health and safety and to national security, not us. But you have to understand how their minds operate. These are the dark triad personality type, and they will play or do what is called dark projection onto the very people who they are trying to silence or trying to destroy. Okay? In particular, there have been a dramatic increase in the number of national security whistleblowers whose disclosure provide critical warning that may well prevent future terrorist attack. These whistleblowers at great risk have faced retaliation and dismissal for confronting a government that would prefer to maintain the false appearance of security than to face the embarrassment of acknowledging its own errors. It's hard to reconcile an administration that said it is doing everything in its power to keep us safe with the routine punishing and silencing of those who reveal risks to our safety. Who, how does the government silence its employees? By employing abusive tactics designed to cover up incompetence and risk. Retaliating against whistleblower. Both political parties claim that another terrorist attack is a matter of when, not if. It is therefore critically important that government employees have the ability and legal protection to identify malfeasance and misconduct in everything from airport security to customs to our ports. However, rather than being commended for their heroism, federal employees were exposed who expose sorry let me read that again. Federal employees who expose security lapse and wrongdoings are typically vilified and retaliated against. Whether it is whether it's an FBI translator citing incompetence or a custom agent uncovering significant airport security breaches, the reward for bravery is to be fired. Sybil Edmond, for example, charged that the FBI translation service were plagued by incompetence and a lack of urgency, as well as by serious security lapses. She was fired. Diane Kalman sought to expose corruption at the Federal Customs Agency operation at JFK International Airport in New York City. She charged that there were widespread corruption, including alleged drug overdoses among customs employees, cash missing from seizures, and security lapse at the major airline. She was fired. Members of the armed forces reportedly have been threatened with retaliation for exposing inhumane and abusive interrogation tactics in Guantanamo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. Current protection for national security whistleblowers are inadequate. FBI whistleblowers who don't have the same rights given to other federal employees by the Whistleblower Protection Act of 1989. Legislation was proposed but not passed in the last Congress that would have made the revocation of a security clearance in retaliation for whistleblowing a prohibited personal practice and forbade the president from using his power to exempt an agency from whistleblower protection laws retroactively. Government employees who risk their careers to expose deception and misconduct are true American patriots. The ACLU stands ready to provide legal support and advice to individuals who want to reveal evidence of wrongdoing by the government. Invoking the so-called state secret privilege, in more than 60 cases, the government has invoked the so-called state secret privileges. The privilege, when properly invoked, permits the government to block the release in litigation of any material that, if disclosed, would cause harm to national security. However, the government has employed the privilege not only to protect national security, but to protect itself from embarrassment. It has relied on the privilege to dismiss lawsuits that might expose serious wrongdoing and security lapses. The privilege was first used in the now infamous Reynolds case. Al Palia and 8 men died in October 1948 when a military plane crashed into a Georgia field. Palia's widow and 2 others filed a lawsuit against the Air Force. The lawsuit went up to the Supreme Court, which ruled that the government had a right to keep secret even from federal judges on the grounds uh, of national security. They claim that the case involved such secrets. The truth didn't come out until 2004 because the Air Force kept insisting that releasing its report might harm national security. When the military finally declassified all reports, Al Palia's daughter learned that the accident report contained no state secrets. It did, however, expose the Air Force failure to make needed repairs in its B 29 fleet. Now, the government has invoked the state secret privilege in the case of Siebel Edmonds, and the dubious Reynolds case has found its modern counterpart. As in Reynolds, the government is using the privilege to avoid exposing its own security lapses. Edmund allegations, which has been supported by United States senators and have been confirmed by the FBI itself, go to the heart of the government pre and post 9/11 failures to provide accurate and timely translation of material related to potential terrorist plots. By invoking the state's secret privilege to dismiss Edmund case, the government not only will avoid additional embarrassing disclosures in this case, but will send an unfortunate signal to future national security whistleblowers. And I was about to read this. It was a car honk. Again, it's 2:21 a.m. in the morning. Okay? And so as I'm reading this, when I get to certain parts, I will either hear a car honk before or after. Normally it's police sirens, but this is what it is at the moment. But I'm going to continue to read, and because again, these are the things that they don't want people to understand and know. And for those of us who are whistleblowers, particularly targeted individual exposing the technology that's being used and then being labeled with mental illness because of that, okay, is something that we have to live with, okay? And we got to understand that these technologies, there is no defense mechanism against it. And the only how is for you to, and the only how to actually stop your minds from being manipulated is to constantly question anything that comes into your mind that can have a potential danger to you, the individual, and to the people around you. Okay? All right, let me continue. So, by invoking the state secret privilege to dismiss Edmund case, the government will not only will avoid additional embarrassing disclosure in this case, but will send an unfortunate signal to future national security whistleblowers about the treatment they face if they dare to come forward. If the state secret can be invoked to terminate at the onset any litigation brought by employees who work is similar to Mrs. Edmund, then the government may retaliate with impunity against whistleblowers who disclose embarrassing lapses. Excessive secrecy to cover up government misconduct. The administration has gone to extreme measure to cover up its failure, including, in the Edmund case, the unprecedented step to retroactively classify information that was previously part of the public record. So this is how far that they will go. Okay? And this is from somebody this is to somebody who works within the government. Imagine those of us, okay, out in the public, who have been experimented on, who have been put into covert operation to destroy our lives, particularly within the black community. When you look at these young black people, particularly if they're wealthy, uh, they have been an extended effort to destroy their lives, and particularly when they start to come into consciousness. Because you must understand, within our community, we are surveilled more than any other community in the United States. All of our phone conversations are being listened to. We are all being monitored online. Okay? And it is a false sense that we have privacy and security, is why they continue to do what they do without any question, and the use of the psychiatric industry, facilities, and the labeling to cover up their crimes is nothing new. That's why I keep saying they can label me whatever they want to label me, but I'm going to continue to speak the truth. Okay? And everything that I talk about, it is verifiable. You can go and do the research yourself, and you will find it and you will see. I don't got to tell you to believe me. And I always say this, don't believe me. Do the research yourself. Even if I'm showing you the documentation, you yourself go and find the documentation and read it. Okay? So the over classification of information that might portray the government in an unflattering light is part of a larger pattern of conduct on the part of its administration. In October of 2001, Attorney General Ashcroft vigorously urged federal agencies to resist Freedom of Information Act requests made by, it's supposed to be by, but I guess the error there, by American citizens. And the administration had refused even to provide information to Congress that would permit legislators to perform critical oversight function. Now, again, this is, shows you and tells you the extent that the government, it doesn't matter who is in office, whether it be Republican or Democrat, all right, they are all being manipulated and controlled. Okay, as history has taught us, excessive secrecy is not only unethical to our democratic system, but it actually harms national security. We are witnessing an abusive use of secrecy designed to grab power by an executive and to shield itself from political embarrassment. Okay? Another document, well, not document, but another article I want to talk about, because again, it deals with the police and how when you see within the government agencies behaving in a certain way, rest assured that the law enforcement agencies will start to behave in that same way. Because the law enforcement agencies, whether it be the FBI or state and local police, are used as enforcers. Okay? So whether it be even through secret operations, right? And of course there is a relationship there. All right? This is why, again, I always talk about, particularly here in New York, the NYPD, have had, and they probably still do, CIA agents embedded within the New York City Police Department. Okay? And if they are there, they may no longer work for the CIA officially, but unofficially, they're working for the CIA. They may even shield their background in order to be recruited as police officers, right? And put into divisions that are, like Drug Enforcement Task Force or other sort of task force, which doesn't allow them to wear a badge and a uniform. Okay, so they may wear regular clothing but have a badge and a gun. All right, but rest assured, we see this with Facebook, where now the top execs and the top technology officers came out of the CIA and the NSA. All right, that's within Facebook. So it's no surprise that when we see Facebook engaging in psychological experimentation, who else have engaged in those things and gotten away with it? Okay. So anyway, this article is called "The Behind the Blue Wall of Silence." This is from USA Today. A USA Today investigation exposes the culture of retaliations against police whistleblowers. Okay, but this is nothing new. You guys heard about Serpico, right? How he exposed, again, the New York City Police Department, what happened to him, as well as other police officers that came after that exposed the corruption within the New York City Police Department. And you'll see they have always been retaliated against, have their lives destroyed, right? Their marriage destroyed, their family destroyed for blowing the whistle on corruption. So it goes to show you that these agencies are the corrupt agencies. Okay? They engage in corruption because that's who they are. They are a corrupt agencies. When a police officer beats someone to death or shoot an unarmed motorist or steal drugs from the evidence room, there is often at least one witness, another cop. What happened to those officers? What happened when those officers speak up and report the misconduct? USA Today set out to establish for the first time the extent of law enforcement blue wall of silence and its impact on the individual officers who have defied it, as well as the communities they police. After a year fighting with public records and interviewing police officers and victims of misconduct, reporters found an unofficial system of retaliation in departments large and small across the country. Police leaders protect those accused of wrongdoing and then punish the officers who expose them. So again, when you hear them talk about police integrity, there is no police integrity. There is no integrity within the US government. They are corrupt government, and we're talking about corrupt agencies because, again, the leadership will always reflect its followers. Or I should say, the followers will always reflect the leadership. Right? That's what I meant to say. So when you have corrupt leaders, those that follow them will be corrupt. Because anyone who is not, they will push out or they will destroy. Okay? Take Moses Black, a former officer in Louisiana. He watched a sergeant kick a handcuffed suspect who then hit his head and went into a seizure. Black reported his sergeant kicks and his department suspended and then fired Black. Now he fixes air conditioning unit in sweltering attic for $19 an hour. Because I'm telling the truth. That's why I can't get a police job anymore, Black said. Now I know how the convicted felon feels. So imagine that. Okay? Engaging in whitelisting, I don't call it blacklisting because it's white people that's doing it, the majority of it, right? So whitelisting officers who come forward against other officers or sergeants who have violated the rights of a citizen. Okay? USA Today series of investigation reveal what happened to the so-called good cops after they see something and then say something. Dead rats, death threats, destroyed careers, how law enforcement punishes its whistleblowers. Around the country, police department hunt down and silence internal whistleblower to cover up misconduct with impunity. They have been fired, jailed, and in at least one case, forcibly admitted to a psychiatric ward. And trust me, there's more than one case. There's cases here in New York City where law enforcement continue to use the psychiatric industry or facilities to forcibly admit people who, when they know they've committed the wrong against, will use that as a cover-up so that they would not be believed when it comes to any trial or any uh, complaint against those officers. Okay, this is the most comprehensive public accounting of police retaliation ever compiled, including dozens of examples never before reported. Searchable records showed more than 300 allegations of misconduct reported by other officers. An internal affairs investigation in Colorado leaked video of an officer punching a handcuffed man in a wheelchair in the head. A Texas police officer reported a sergeant who planted drugs in his ex-wife's car. These were just two of the more than 300 cases USA Today unearthed of law enforcement officers bucking the blue wall of silence. Okay, and I guess these are some of the stories. So let's go to this article. All right. So, from a tiny department in the mountains of Idaho to the New York Police Department, USA Today found more than 300 cases of officers who bucked law enforcement blue wall of silence by reporting or testifying against co-workers accused of misconduct over the past decade. In Colorado, an internal affairs investigator leaked a video of which I just read. So in Texas, okay, they read that too. In Louisiana, a state trooper refused to participate in what he said was a cover-up in the case of Ronald Green, who died in state custody after being beaten and stunned with a taser. After speaking out, all of them were forced out of their department and branded traitors by fellow officers. What the data means. In our searchable database, the bold title for each entry and the sortable categories describe the nature of the allegations. They do not indicate whether the misconduct was proven to have occurred. The year column indicates that the purported wrongdoing happened. In some case, it was reported later, unless otherwise indicated. The accused officer and the department leader were denied wrongdoing. Of course they do. Every time they investigate themselves, they will find that they did nothing wrong. Okay? Even when they have video evidence, they will fight to have those videos not released. Sometimes it'll take years. Sometimes, who knows, they might erase the video, right? They've done that. Okay? We're talking about corruption, like I said. When the leader is corrupt, the followers will also be corrupt. And that goes from the United States government, the higher office, to law enforcement, the sergeant, commanders, lieutenants, what have you. Okay, so we need to be honest with ourselves. Okay, we need to really be honest with ourselves and accept the truth, right? That this government is corrupt, its law enforcement agencies is corrupt, its security agencies is corrupt, and they lie to us. Okay, they keep us in this false illusion that they are somehow morally superior, but they are the most corrupt morally. They've assassinated people, murdered, set up, frame, manipulate individuals. And a lot of it is done in the shadows, using some of the very same people next to us, including family members. Okay, so we got to become aware of these things. And particularly, like I keep talking about the technology, silent sound. And because they don't want to believe us, then, we have to do what we need to do to protect ourselves, as well as them also. All right. So, USA Today spent more than a year unearthing the cases from thousands of documents from police and sheriff department, prosecutors, oversight groups, and labor regulators around the country, including federal files provided by confidential sources. Okay, and I think this is what I start to read. Let's go to the next article. Oh, okay. Right into one of those subscription uh, service. Let's see if I can. I don't want to play this video for copyright reasons. Well, let me just. I guess you guys can read some of the stuff on your own. But again, we are led to believe lies. Okay, and when you've been conditioned with lies, all right, there's no telling what kind of personality you will develop. There's no telling what kind of behaviors you will develop, because we are dealing with individuals who think that they are better than us, that they are more privileged than us, that they have the right to rule over us in whatever capacity, however way. Sometimes it's in the most brutal ways, but it may not seem that way. Because when we think of governments that are brutal to its people, we think of countries that where you see they will physically assault, murder, incarcerate uh, their citizens, right? Meanwhile, we're living in a country that does the same thing. It does the very same thing, even more so than those countries that they claim are abusive dictatorships with abusive rulers. But when you have a government and its security agencies creating technology to control the minds of the population and to also create a mindset within a certain group of people of dysfunctional behavior, dysfunctional way of thinking, and they think that they can get away with it because they are hiding behind national security. But the truth is out there. The truth is out there. Now, I read a report. Let me look for this document. Okay. So I read a report of Russia. Okay. And trying to find that article of Russia fighter plane. Um, trying to find it. Tell you, when they don't want you to find certain things, they will make it difficult for you to search on the internet. So you gotta be very careful in certain uh, when you're looking for certain things, um, in terms of your wording, right? Okay, let me see if this might be it. Okay, here we go. Um, this was recent, I believe. So let me see. Yes, here it is. Okay, so the MiG 31, with uh, Kinzhal missile spotted over Belarus. Russia orders more hypersonic weapons amid Ukraine war. Now, why all of a sudden Russia decided to send its fighter jets equipped with hypersonic weapons? Why is that? And I started to think. Because this is the one thing that they don't want us to do, is to think, right? And I would suspect that probably the US was probably using microwave and radio wave weapons against the Russian army. Okay? Because this was an unprecedented move, right? And with these missiles, there is no defense system today that can stop these missiles. Okay? And this is why also you see the increased military budget of over $830 billion, right? $830 billion. But yet there is rampant poverty here in the United States. You have corporations laying off people by the thousands. They don't have to. But because of their greed is the reason why. And because the military industrial complex, and Eisenhower spoke about this, and they are making their move to what is called the silent takeover. Okay? So, citing the Belarus Hajon project Telegram channel, the report stated that a MiG 31 with a number of RF 92 339 was flying over Belarus and carrying a hypersonic missile. A photograph was subsequently released as evidence of the aircraft over Minsk. Okay. While the MiG 31 armed with Kinzhal missile remain reportedly deployed in Belarus, Russia's defense ministry has meanwhile ordered an additional batch of Teskon Zircon hypersonic missiles, as reported by the state news agency's TASS. Okay, so these missiles, okay, are so fast that it bypasses every defense mechanism, any anti-aircraft missiles. Because of its speed, those defense mechanisms or devices cannot lock onto the missile. Okay? And I think the US is in a panic mode right now right? Because they did not think Russia had such a capability. This is why, okay, and I would suspect we see the assassination of the cryptocurrency creators because cryptocurrency is pretty big in Russia. So again, we're talking about the unofficial assassination of individuals, and not also that because cryptocurrency is a threat to the financial system of the West, and so any competitor or competition by others will trigger, okay, all kind of events, including assassination of those who created these sort of currency, and the fact that they have been worldwide, for the most part, accepted as a form of currency. Okay? So, again, when based on my research, okay, and based on my targeting and the non consensual experimentation, the illegal microchipping that was done to me, uh, I would suspect Russia is sending a message because they now understand and recognize how the technology is being used. So, but that's just my thoughts. Okay? It's my opinion. It's not the opinion of anyone that I have spoken to or I know so far. That is my own opinion. Okay, I'm not going to read all of it. But yeah, this is what is going on. And so, again, they will retaliate against those of us who speak the truth. I mean, imagine you as an individual being constantly harassed with noise campaign. Even today, right? I always talk about how my upstairs neighbor always knocking and dropping stuff above my head. Now they have using directional sound, in which today it happened where I heard a knock on my computer desk. No, I didn't knock it. Okay. So again, and then having the episode with family members. But again, they don't understand what's going on because they don't want to believe it. Like I said, we have been dumbed down, and this is why they did what they did. Because again, they are afraid of the truth. And my video, which you guys can check out on Facebook, um, I have yet to upload those videos onto YouTube. I need to. I don't know. Well, I know why I haven't been able to do it. Is because again, they can use the technology to make you forget about certain things. So the fact that I do have a separate channel when it comes to dealing with issues with black people within the system of right racism in America, various topics that I've talked about. So I usually do a Facebook Live, okay, and because my YouTube channel is new, at least that channel, I cannot go live as of yet because I need to have 1,000 subscribers, okay, in order for you to go live. So hence the reason why I do it on Facebook. And as I said, to go live, they still hear police sirens. Listen, don't be scared to the point where with their use of police sirens, they try to intimidate you into silence. Because I remember very early on in my targeting when they were engaging in the fear-based campaign, all right, or the fear-based programming. Is to try to promise you things uh, if you just become afraid and not speak out against what's happening and what's going on. Okay, it's the same sort of negative conditioning as to when they were trying to use individuals who would take out a stack of cash in front of me and start counting it whenever I would, you know, engage in behavior that was negative, right? So whether it be cursing at somebody, yelling at somebody, not helping somebody, and whenever I would help people, okay, I'll do things positive that are positive, they will use the police as an intimidating force to try to prevent me from doing those things. So I've done a lot of studying in terms of analyzing my behavior, my way of thinking, all right, and understanding uh, how it was done. Okay, so this is one of the things that we have to understand when you look at particularly the black community, how negative behaviors are rewarded. All right, so when I start to analyze myself, analyze the things that they were transmitting to me through the technology, I understood why the vast majority of us behave in the manner in which we behave it, which is negative. Okay? So, with that being said, I will talk to you guys on the next video.